Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Greg Sports Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about college football as there was a rumor going around, big talk about. I'm going to talk about that rumor. I'm going to give you my thoughts on how we can implement this. I think that I came up with a good idea, and I'm going to get it out to you, beautiful people. So let's further ado. Let's cut the BS. Let's get right into it. So there's been a bunch of people coming out with these articles, right? Bunch of articles came out. I used this guy. I started this rumor. So apparently the rumor going around, a group of sports executive and college presidents are proposing a football super league with 80 schools that will pay players collectively bargaining and increase revenue. This was per God Andrew Marshard. I don't know how to pronounce it, and Stuart Mandel. The current and in quotations, the current college model for college students is dead, and that's pretty much true. I like the idea of the Super League. It depends how it works. I'm going to go over of what I would do about the Super League, but yeah, the current college sports model is dead. With NIL coming in, transfer portal, all these new things, especially with NIL. I mean, players are getting paid, some of them making good money, you know, and it's good to see. I think college athletes deserve it. I mean, these people, these athletes, mainly the football and basketball, that's kind of what I'm going off. And there's so many other good athletes, but mainly college football and college basketball bring the money in and bring the money into these schools, and you kind of it's kind of good to see the players. They work their asses off to get to the NFL, NBA. So do the other sports athletes, but we're mainly going off football and basketball. And I like the idea of this super league, and I'm curious to how they would do it. But here is my super league, if you will. So I made a spreadsheet of my idea for the Super League. I think this is a good idea. I think, if it works correctly, I think it could be a really, really good idea. But this is what Greg would do if he was one of these executive or college presidents. So let me share you my screen. The first thing we're going to go over are the 80 teams I would have, or 80 schools partaking in the Super League. I'll give you my thoughts on it. Number one, this is alphabetical order. We're going Alabama, powerhouse. Nick Saban, unfortunately, retired for Alabama. He's been a big part. Next one, we're going our first group of five school. I feel like we're gonna go over. There will be I think for the Super League all the Power Five schools will be in there. I think you need at least 10 group of five schools. I'm going with App State. I think their program is really solid. I think they got a beautiful stadium. They got a beautiful scenery there, and you need an underdog. They beat Michigan when they were number 7 years ago in 2007. Why not have App State? We're going Arizona State, Arkansas, Auburn, Baylor, Boise State, our second group of 5 representative. They deserve it. They have a good history program. Blue field, you need that. You need the blue field. Boise's been fantastic. They had a great run. Now it's kind of mid, but Boise State deserves to be in this. I feel like Boston College, BYU, Cal, Cincinnati, Clemson, Duke, Colorado, Florida State. We got our third one, group of 5 school being Fresno State. I always feel like Fresno State is a solid program, and why not add Fresno State? Fresno State is a solid team. They're always solid. They have good years. Sometimes they have bad years, but why not give Fresno State a shot to be up here, as well as Georgia Tech, Houston, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa State, James Madison. Why not? They just came from FCS to FBS 2 years ago. They have dominated. They had really 2 good years since transitioning. Last year, 11-1. Didn't win a bowl game, unfortunately. Everyone transferring, opting out. Coach left. Yada yada. But James Madison, solid program. They earned it. I guess you can say they haven't earned it, even though they've been up here for 2. You could say they haven't earned it because they've been up here for 2 years. But why not add James Madison? Solid program. Why not give James Madison a shot? I like James Madison. We'll see what their new coach can do this year and the new players. But James Madison, come on, let's have some fun with this. Kansas State, Kentucky, third and the fifth, I think the fifth one we have, we're going Liberty. Liberty just went undefeated, bro. I mean, granted, they did get their ass kicked by Oregon in the bowl game. Granted, opt-outs, transfers, and whatnot for Liberty, but Liberty got their ass kicked. But why not have Liberty? They went undefeated. They're a solid program. Why not have Liberty? We're having fun here. Again, maybe Liberty doesn't make the cut. Maybe James Madison don't make the cut, but we're having fun here. Louisville, LSU, Maryland, Memphis, Miami, Michigan, Michigan State, Miami of Florida, by the way, Minnesota, Mississippi State, Missouri, NC State, Nebraska, Northwestern, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Oregon, Oregon State, Penn State, Pitt, Purdue, Rutgers, SMU, who will be in the ACC, South Carolina, Stanford, Syracuse, TCU, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Tulane. They've been the past couple years, they've been a really solid group of five team. They went from worst to first last year, I guess you can say, as they beat USC and Caleb Williams in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. And they've been a solid program. They did lose their coach this year. We'll see what they can do this year, but Tulane can be in it. I think Tulane can also provide a New Orleans type of market. If we're going based off like TV ratings and whatnot, I think Tulane can give us that New Orleans market, even though LSU is from Louisiana, but Tulane, I believe, is in New Orleans. It gives you two teams, I guess, New Orleans market and two great teams, I guess you can say. UCF, UCLA, kind of questionable here. UNLV, I figured, well, if this is going to be a Super League, why not go to tap into the Las Vegas market? Add UNLV, granted their football program has been average. They did have a good year this past year, but why not tap into the Las Vegas market, Allegiant Stadium? UNLV, why not? It's a Super League. Because you guys got to realize this league is going to be probably based off money and whatnot and TV ratings. UNLV gives you a nice Las Vegas market. So why not? I mean, the players are getting played, but, if we're talking about money and ratings, UNLV, tap in the Las Vegas market. USC, USF, another group of five team. I figured why not tap into the Tampa Bay market because USF is Tampa Bay. You got the Orlando market with UF. You got the Miami market. You got the Florida State. I figured why not tap into the Tampa Bay region, USF. They had a really great year. They almost beat Alabama. I think their football program's on the rise. They're getting a new stadium. Why not have them here in this league? Utah, UTSA, another group of five team we are including. We already got a lot of markets in Texas. Why not tap into the San Antonio market? UTSA's had a couple really good years under, I think his name is Jeff Taylor, or is it Fred Taylor? I don't know. Frank Harris, the quarterback there, has been solid. Why not include UTSA and get that San Antonio market? Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Washington State, West Virginia, and Wisconsin are the 80 teams I would put in the Super League. Now you're probably thinking, Indiana, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, all these other schools, Greg, they're boring to watch. They suck. I understand. I think they suck too. But if we're talking about a Super League, I think all the Power 5 schools are guaranteed in it. Washington State and Oregon State, they're going to be in it because they're in the Pac-2. They got nowhere else to go. So if this Super League comes to form, it kind of saves Washington State and Oregon State. Yes, I freaking hate Vanderbilt. They suck. They're never good. They're never good, guys. We know they're never good. But if it's a Super League, the Power 5s are going to have to be in. They're all going to be in. Rutgers, etc. Even with Rutgers, you want to say Rutgers sucks. I get that. But if we're looking at a TV market ratings type of stance, Rutgers gives you that New York, New Jersey market. But again, the Power 5 schools are going to be in. I know it sucks because we have to watch these trash schools, I guess you could say. But their Power 5 schools are going to get it. Now, how would I separate the conferences? Here's how I separate the conferences. Ready? Now, I'm going 8 conferences, 10 teams per in it. Again, the conference model, maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe we not. Maybe we go 4 conferences with 4, 20, 40, 60, 80. Yeah, maybe 4 conferences with 20 teams. The top 10 play one another. The bottom 10 play another, whatever year. However, maybe you want to do West, North, East, North, South, East, and West, 20 teams in it. That's going to be something. But I'm going 8 conferences, 10 teams. So we're starting off with the Big 10. We're going Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Purdue, Wisconsin. You keep all those good rivalries there. You got Purdue, Notre Dame. That's a big rivalry. Notre Dame, Michigan, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State. A lot of big rivalries there. Indiana. I mean, that's just the Big Ten. We'll go over. There's 2 teams missing that you're probably thinking, why aren't they in the Big Ten? But that's how I would do the Big Ten. Even Wisconsin, these are all good matchups. I think this would probably be the best conference in football for them. Next conference I would do, or next conference I would have, is the SEC. You get Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. These are now again these conferences. I don't know how you're going to balance them. You know what I mean? If we're doing 20 with 24 conferences with 20, I think that's perfect. But we're doing 10 with 8, so I kind of was going off. But yeah, I think these would be the 2 hardest conferences out of them all. If we're doing 8 conferences and whatnot with 10 teams, you have to have a balance, bro. You have to have a balance. You can't have all the top teams. I mean, you got to have all the top teams. I mean, I guess you can say, but like you feel like it's too top heavy, kind of. I don't know. Maybe you got to spread the talent out. Maybe spread the schools out. But again, this is what I would kind of do. We move on to our next conference. We go to the Pac-10, not the Pac-12, the Pac-10. We're going to call it Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, USC, UCLA, Washington State, kind of keeping that West Coast part of the country. Don't have to travel that far unless you're playing a non-conference games. Yeah, what Pac-10 stays alive, the traditional Pac-10, I guess you can call it, and you keep all those great rivalries there. So why not? We'll have the Pac-10. Our 4th conference, we're going with the ACC. Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Maryland. If you guys don't remember, Maryland used to be in the ACC, and then they transferred over to the Big Ten. They're going to go back to the ACC, and as well as Miami of Florida, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Wake Forest. South Carolina, I feel like they fit the ACC a little bit more than the SEC, and we get to keep the Clemson, South Carolina rivalry going, the North Carolina, South Carolina rivalry going. Maryland brings back some old prestige to them, even though they haven't done nothing in the Big Ten. They still Maryland and Rutgers, they still haven't beat the 3-headed monster. They haven't beaten Penn State, Michigan, or Ohio State yet. So going back to the ACC, maybe it works on them, but Maryland Duke. Remember that basketball rivalry with JJ Redick? Damn, that was crazy. Anyway, but we're going off football. So yeah, we're gonna have the ACC. Our next conference, the Big 12. Now we can't call it the Big 10. We got to call it the Big 12. That's why I'm going the Big. Oh my god, I butchered that. It should be the Big. I put the Big 11. It should be the Big XLL. Oh my god, I can't believe I butchered that on the air. Anyway, we go BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas State, Missouri, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia. Now the reason why I put Iowa here is, where do you put Minnesota, Northwestern, Minnesota, Northwestern, Indiana, Illinois? Where do you put them? I feel like Illinois, Indiana, and Northwestern have more rivalries with the current Big Ten schools on that in the Big Ten conference. That's kind of why I did it. I wanted to keep the Iowa State rivalry going. And, Iowa's such a decent football program. If you put them in the Big Ten, it's by far the best conference. So I figured, why not move Iowa, get the Iowa State rivalry yearly, and spread out the talent a little bit more. Colorado goes back to the Big 12. We have Nebraska goes back to the Big 12. You get those rivalries, Colorado and Nebraska. I feel like this would probably be a weaker of the conferences, but BYU is already in the Big 12, I guess. BYU's in the Big 12, and we get the Utah thing. West Virginia kind of had nowhere else to put them. I feel like I wanted to put them in the ACC as well as our other conference, but I feel like I can't get it to balance. Our next conference is a custom conference. I'm going with the Lone Star State Conference. Yes, the Lone Star State. Arkansas, Baylor, Houston, Oklahoma State, SMU, TCU, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. This keeps our Texas schools basically all in one conference with the 2 Oklahoma. Arkansas, I figured I had nowhere else to put them, kind of thing. And I feel like Arkansas, they have history with Texas A&M, keep those rivalries going and whatnot. We still get the Oklahoma State rivalry. We still get Oklahoma, Texas. We still get the big classic Big 12 matchup with Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and Texas. So feels like a good fit there. We move on to our next conference, the Big East. We bring it back. I mean, I don't Big East. I had no clue. We bring back the Big East. Why not? This would consist of Boston College, Cincinnati, Louisville, Penn State, Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse, UCF, Virginia Tech. Reason why I didn't put Virginia Tech in the ACC is because I don't know. I don't know why I didn't put Virginia. Oh, well, I guess because you only have 10 teams. I feel like the ACC teams here all make much more sense. Keep the rivalries with these other schools kind of thing. Virginia Tech wanted to keep the rivalry there. Didn't want to split them up. So I figured why not send them both to the Big East. Penn State. I wanted to put them in the Big Ten, but if you put them in the Big Ten, you got Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. 4, and even Wisconsin, 5 schools that are really good at football, and moving Penn State out of the Big East, or moving Penn State out of the Big Ten to the Big East. I mean, granted, they're probably going to run this conference, but they're probably going to run the conference rather than not win the Big Ten. Give them some help, wins there. Louisville goes back to the original Big East. Cincinnati, they are in the Big 12. But again, I think they fit the Big East more. You get the Cincinnati Pitt rivalry. I know they have history there. Pitt, West Virginia, I wanted to keep the rivalry, but Pitt fits the Big East more. And I wanted to put West Virginia in the Big 12. So I was like, do you want to flop Cincinnati to the Big 12 and West Virginia? I couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to swap. But you could probably maybe swap them. I don't know. Could swap them. And then I think this is our final conference I came up with. Was the Group of 5 conference, which consists of App State, Boise State, Fresno State, James Madison, Liberty, Memphis. I don't know if I mentioned Memphis, but again, Memphis, good market. They're a good, solid program. Tulane, UNLV, USF, UTSA. A lot of traveling between those teams. I will say that. But, I feel like they're going to have a Group of 5 conference type of thing. Now, here's what I would do as well with the Super League. I'm going to have these teams play 13 games only. We're eliminating the conference championship games. The conference championships are a worthless game to me, especially now with the college football playoff expanding. But in my Super League, eliminate the conference championship games. I get it. They're money draws. I get it. But these athletes are already playing. These college kids. These are kids, by the way. NFL, they're playing 17. They're probably gonna go to 18. These are college kids, and if we're expanding the playoff probably more, I don't know how big we're going to expand it or have the playoff. And even if you have the college football playoff, I understand people not liking the automatic bids, but you kind of have to do it. You got to give each conference a shot. I mean, I understand, the talent outside of like Alabama, Georgia, and not that like every other school struggles. But if we're doing a playoff, all conferences should be represented, unless you want to do, like I said, which I should have probably maybe you could do 4 conferences with 20 teams and just 4 auto bids. Anyway, so yeah. So no conference championships, 13 games. How would you play? Well, guess what? Since it's 10-team conferences, you play everyone in your conference once. Whether it's you balance the roads. Like one year you'll be the road team, the next year you'll be the home team, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where your 10 games come from. You have 3 non-conference. You can play whoever you want. It's going to be up to the schools. So if Clemson wants to play Alabama at a neutral site, or Clemson wants to go to Alabama and Alabama wants to go to Clemson the following year, I feel like that's the best way. Non-conference games, you can play whoever you want. You can play a Group of 5 team, or maybe you can play a team that's not in the Super League if you want to balance it. So yeah, here we go. So this is my college football playoff. This is kind of what I would do. We're doing a 16-team playoff. It fits 8 conference winners. So if you win your conference, you're in. No conference championship game. You win your conference, you're in. So if Alabama finishes atop the SEC, Illinois is atop the Big Ten, Arizona Pac-10, et cetera, you're in. You just win your conference, and yeah, you win your conference. You have the best conference record, It sucks to say, but I want to eliminate the conference tournament game or conference championship games, cut down the kids, cut down their playing the game, I guess, when will I start it? I'd do like a week, give the kids a week to get after the season to rest up, I guess you can say. And then we're going to do 8 at-larges. So the best 8 teams would be those 8 at larges. I'm not doing the committee with these presidents of these schools. If it was me, the people that decide the 8 best teams after are guys like Kurt Herbstreit, Joe Klatt, Chris Fowler, Reese Davis, all them guys, Colin Cowherd. Get them all in a. I would get all those guys, get them in a room, media personnel, no biases. Remove the biases, get rid of the presidents and whatnot, the athletic directors. I mean, get rid of them. I'm bringing in guys like Kurt Herbstreit and media personalities, I guess you can say, into the fold, as well as we're having the first weekend of games. They're going to be played on campuses, just like how it is now, and then the quarters and the semis, New Year's 6. So the New Year's 6 would be the quarters and semis with the national championship at a neutral site. And then how do I kind of fix bowl season? You have to have 6 wins minimum like it is now. And what I am doing is we're going to have 3 different tiers. Okay, we're going to have 3 different tiers of the bowl season. Now, granted, how is this going to work? I don't know, because the way I have it would be 6 bowl games being matchups, I guess you can say. But 6 wins minimum. They can figure out if you have an open invite, like they kind of do with the NIT for basketball. Invite teams if they want to play, they can play. If they don't want to play, they can opt out. I guess you can do something like that. But what I have now, I haven't figured out how like the group of 5 teams can move up to the other 7 conferences. What I was thinking for the group of 5 conferences here, this group of 5 conference is every like 2 to 3 years. If like the SEC doesn't want Vanderbilt, they can knock Vanderbilt down to the group of 5 and take like South Florida. I haven't worked into it, but to keep the group of 5 conference relevant and get new teams every single year, the bottom 2 teams of the group of 5 teams would take on the winners of the tier 2 teams, the top 2 teams of the tier 2. So if you are a group of 5 conference, let's say James Madison and Liberty, for example, were the 2 worst teams of the group of 5, they would have to take on the best of tier 2. And then if the tier 2 team wins, they replace the team they beat. So if the winner of let me go over. So let me make this more example. I think I have it like this, right? On 22. There you go. Okay, here it is. Here's our tier 2 team. So let's go over our tier 2 teams. Air Force. Now I know Air Force and Army, Navy don't have anything with like NIL, but I had to include them. So I figured instead of putting Air Force in the Navy and Army in the group of 5, we put them in the lower tiers if they want to partake, and if not, they want to be independent, they can. But I put them Arkansas State, Bowling Green, Coastal Carolina, Jacksonville State, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, Miami, Ohio, New Mexico State, North Texas, Ohio, Rice, San Jose State, South Alabama, Texas State, Toledo, Troy, Utah State, Western Kentucky, Wyoming. These are based off, by the way, how I set tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 were based off like last year's standings. So let's say, for example, Air Force, Arkansas State are the top 2 teams of tier 2. They would play James Madison and Liberty. Or if Air Force, since Air Force was the best, they get the worst team, right? Yeah, the worst team. So they would take, let's say Liberty was the worst team in group of 5, Air Force, Liberty. Let's say James Madison was the second worst, and Arkansas State was the second best. They would play. So let's say Air Force beat Liberty. Air Force would jump into the group of 5 conference. Liberty would get knocked down to the tier 2, kind of like how they do it in the Premier League, as well as the bottom 2 of tier 2 would take on the tier 3 team. So here's tier 3. Here what I came up. Oh, I did it wrong. This is what I came up for tier 3. So tier 3, you'll have Army, Ball State, Central Michigan, Colorado State, Eastern Michigan, FAU, Georgia Southern, Hawaii, Marshall, Middle Tennessee, Navy, Nevada, Northern Illinois, Old Dominion, Southern Miss, Temple, Tulsa, UAB, and Western Michigan. So let's say Wyoming, Western Kentucky were the 2 worst in the tier 2, and Army or Ball State were in the top 2. You play. If the winner of tier 3 beat the team from tier 2, you move up to tier 2. So you go from tier 3 to tier 2, et cetera, et cetera. And then the tier 4, the bottom 2 of tier 3 taking the top 2 of tier 4. And here is my tier 4. It's everybody else, basically. Akron, Buffalo, Charlotte, Delaware, it's ECU, FIU, Kennesaw State, Kent State, Louisiana Tech, New Mexico, San Diego State, Sam Houston, UConn, UNL Monroe, UMass, and UTEP. These are based off last year's standings. So yeah. You get 6 bowl game matchups. You can possibly get 2 teams in the G5 every year. And yeah, it's kind of to make the sport relevant. Like, imagine going from tier 4 to the group of 5. I think that would be awesome. But again, the transfer portal, I'm not sure how you can fix it. I didn't come up with that. But this is how I would do this 80 team Super League. I would have these 80 teams over here and then divide them up into 8 conferences, do a 16 team playoff, no conference championship games. You win your top of your conference, you get the auto bid. We have 8 at larges. Get whoever, get rid of the ADs, get rid of the presidents, get guys like Kurt Herbstreit in there, have them debate the 8 best teams. Maybe you can make a show out of it for money. Who knows? First campus games or the first round campus games at home. So if you're the top seed, you get to host a game. And then the quarter semifinals would be at the New Year's 6 sites for the money reasons. And then bowl season, 6 wins minimum. You can invite teams. If you want to invite, you can, first of all, like if you're inviting people to bowl games or inviting teams, rather, you start with the 80 teams in the Super League. So if, teams from the Super League have 6 wins, they can get an invitation to bowl season and partake in. You can mix and match matchups, have some fun with it. And then as well as you play every team in your conference once. Non-conference, you ADs can figure it out and whatnot. And then we have how you can get from tier 4 to 3, from tier 3 to 2, tier 2 to group of 5. I'm not sure how we can figure out how we can get group of 5 teams. The group of 5 up to, the higher leagues. I guess I was thinking every 2 to 3 years you can say, if I don't want Vanderbilt anymore, they drop the group of 5 and you want South Florida. I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking. And yeah, bottom 2 of group of 5 would take on bottom tier of tier 2 or top tier of tier 2 in a bowl game. Neutral sites. I think it's fair. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they should have to go play on the road. I was thinking bowls, so you get 6 good bowl games out of that, because and that's how you kind of fix a bowl season, if I'm being honest. These group of 5 teams, man, they don't want to lose. Like, if you're the worst of group of 5, you don't want to lose, because if you lose, you go down to tier 2 and have to play the tier 2 teams. And yeah, and this is a good point I should make too. I forgot to make. How would I do? Because these tier 2 and tier 3 have 20 teams in it, and then tier 4 have like everybody else pretty much. I would have it where the top 10 of tier 2 would play. So like if you finish 1, you play the top 10 play another, and the bottom 10 play one another for the 10 conference games. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that's kind of what I would do. So like, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from Air Force to Ohio, if they were the top 10, they all play one another. And then from Rice to Wyoming, they would play one another. You finish the top 10, you got to face a hard schedule. It's not going to be easy to get to the group of 5. You know what I mean? And I think this could make the sport more fun. I root for the small schools. I love the small schools, but you kind of got to earn it. I mean, the money is like, no offense to these small schools, but the money are in the Power 5 schools. So that's why all the Power 5 will make the Super League. And then you got to give 10 small schools a shot. You got to have an underdog story. And then, yeah, I have a way where you can go from tier. Yeah, that's how I would fix college football. Makes bowl season more funner, because the tier 2 teams want to go to group 5. Group 5 want to stay up, and you don't want to go down from tier 2 to tier 3, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of how I would fix college football. So that's kind of what I would do with this 80-team Super League if I got put in charge. I like the idea of a Super League, not going to lie. I mean, as long as we keep our rivalries and the traditions going, I'm for it, man. I'm for it. And as long as we're giving small schools 10 slots to this league, I'm fine with that. We need some underdogs. We need some Cinderellas. We need that type of stuff, because that's why we love college sports, is we love our Cinderellas and whatnot. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here. I probably BS'd a lot of it. Spewed a lot of BS, but it is what it is, man. This is my sports podcast. So if you guys have enjoyed, hit like, hit subscribe. And that's going to do it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace.